Friday. We're glad to have you tuned in on this first Friday of October.
First Friday.
Man, oh
Where
man.
did September go, Rob?
Where has the rest of the year went, Johnny?
Oh,
Good
goodness
gracious.
gracious.
Well, not the rest of the year, but the beginning from January 1st to now, it is just really went by extremely fast. And they say the older you get, the faster time flies by. Lord have mercy. I don't think I'm going to be able to flip the calendar that fast.
I tell you what, I'm older than I think, evidently.
We welcome you into this pre-recorded edition of the Gardener's Corner program that's brought to you today by Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers in Oxford, T.G. Brooks Company in Timberlake since 1936. Hey, you've got just tonight and tomorrow opportunity left to attend the Halifax County Fair over in South Boston, Virginia. A lot of good things going on. Something for everyone at the Halifax County Fair behind the South Boston Speedway, Highway 360 East. Also, we appreciate the support of Owl Pride Foods, makers of Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, and the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association show. It is already kicked off. It runs today, tomorrow, Saturday, and then Sunday, and it's just off of Central Avenue in Butner. If you are a fan of antique tractors, the old-time way, hit-and-miss engines, and just antique displays galore, you need to head on down to the 12th Annual Harvest Show, sponsored by the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association. Proceeds generated from the Harvest Show go to benefit the Scholarship Fund. But that's going on today, tomorrow, and Sunday again. So I'm going to try to make my way down tomorrow. Always a large amount of exhibitors there, and it seems to be something new each and every year, Johnny. Although it's something old, but it's new to the show.
Yeah.
So a lot of good times. And by the way, without further ado, if you would please make welcome all the way from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, the horticultural agent for Person and Granville counties, Mr. Johnny Coley.
Well, thank
and
you,
a good
Rob.
morning.
What an introduction.
Well, I had referred to you as Johnny several times, and I said, Lord have mercy, I hadn't even given him the formal introduction that he's so is so deserving of. So, anyway, but
I'm about deserving. I know what I deserve, and that's not it.
well, I tell you, since the retirement of Mr. Carl Cantalupi, and speaking of Carl, he's got a birthday coming up next week,
Yes,
and I've got to
he
get in
does.
touch with it the 9th.
October 9th.
So if you folks know how to get in touch with Carl, I'm not going to give his number out over the air, but if you by chance have his email or his phone number, give him a call and tell him happy birthday.
Don't text him, because he still doesn't text. I tried that, and it didn't work.
Call or email, he's good to go. But
Yeah,
October the 9th will be Carl Cantalupi's birthday. But I need to give Carl a call and catch up. But
I talked to him over when we were having the storm and everything. I talked to him through that, and he's doing well, staying busy as usual.
Oh yeah, Carl is a good guy, and I became really good friends with him, doing the program. And Johnny, but I will say this: I had kind of knew some of the other agents of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, and then after Carl's retirement, we started bringing the different agents in on a rotating basis.
Yes, sir.
Rotating depending on what that schedule allowed. But it's been really nice to kind of get to know the different agents on more so a business / personal level. Yeah. And it's a great wealth of knowledge right there with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. And some of the finest folks you'll ever work with is in Person and Granville counties. And Johnny, when you pay me for that, more or less fine compliment, just make the check out to cash.
Cash. I hear you.
But just speaking about that, but I consider them friends. I really do. So,
Yeah,
Johnny,
it's a big group of people to work with. I've only been there for almost 2 years now, but like you said, it is a lot of knowledgeable people, and if somebody doesn't know it, then they ask somebody else in the other office. They usually do. So
well, that's what it is. It's a big old form of networking,
yes,
so
it
to
is.
speak.
If with 2 universities to back us up. So.
Absolutely. So, but again, we want to encourage you, if you ever have problems with horticultural differences or questions, contact your local Cooperative Extension Service office. If you've got questions about 4-H, livestock, field crops, also maybe you're thinking about food safety and wanting to maybe get your pressure counter gauge checked, the Cooperative Extension Service can handle and take care of all of those things, and they have a huge amount of printouts available. They can email them to you. You can stop by the office and pick up a printed copy of it. Everything from
we can mail it
gardening.
To you.
That's right, you can mail it to them.
Right.
So, anyway, they are there to help out, and maybe you're thinking about, and it's not a bad idea with it being fall time of the year. You need to start thinking about what you want to plant, next year. And hopefully, Johnny, that people are going to go ahead and take those soil samples and get them turned in to the office by Thanksgiving, because the soil sample fees are waived and free until Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving, they will go to a $4 per fee
until
sample
April 1st. Yeah.
and go until April 1st. So get those soil samples done. And ladies and gentlemen, if the soil samples were not as important as they are, we wouldn't even make mention of it, would we, John?
No, it just there's no way to know what the nutrients are in your soils. I mean, there's some recommendations that we can give as far as fertility goes without a soil sample, but the pH, there's pH is just throwing at a dartboard if you're trying to guess at that, because there's no way to know a pH of a soil until you do that soil test.
Well, you know what, Johnny? You just gave me an idea. For those folks that do not want to do the soil samples, they could make them a big old bulletin board and they could have little spots on it, put 200 pounds to the acre, 500 pounds to the acre,
Just
put none to the acre. And if you want to take a guess, just step off about 30 feet and throw at it with a dart.
Yeah.
And wherever it hits, because you'll be just as lucky doing it that way as kind of guessing your head, all in a sense.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And that's the pH is so important, because it governs how much of the nutrients can be taken up. So you can put down the nutrients that you need, but if your pH is off, the plant still cannot take up the soil, the nutrients or fertilizers that you put down. So pH is a very important part of the soil sampling process. So get those in. Still have a couple months to go. You need to start getting your fall fertilizer and fall grass seed out pretty soon. The turnaround, the last few I've sent in, the turnaround's probably been no more than 2 weeks. They slowed up during the storm there because they had they closed the office. The lab was closed for a couple of days there. That slowed them down a little bit, but they've caught back up. And so you could still send in a soil sample this week and get it back and have time to do your fertilizing for the fall fescue lawns, your cool season lawns. You could still do that. So you do want to go ahead and get that done and get your results back so you can figure out what to put on your lawns for the fall.
Something else, as leaves will soon start to fall, and you start the challenge of collecting leaves. I just want to let y'all know that again this year, I am going to make a list, first call, first to receive leaves at our place. And so if you're wanting leaves, you give me a call. I'll put your name down on the list, and you give me an idea of how many leaves you would like. After they fall, when that amount of leaves gets on the ground, I will call you.
You can
Come and pick them up, and then the next person in line. Now, if the very first person calls, it tells me that they want all the leaves that I can produce for them. I will require a deposit payment, and then I will work out a schedule for you to where if you want to just get a few of them at the time, or if you just want to wait till they all fall and come and get them at one time, I'll work with you on the schedule. I'm not hard to get along with that. So, but again, I will offer that as I have
If
done
you
in
run
the
out,
past.
if you run out, pass the names on to me because I got
All right,
I got
well, I'll
a few
do it.
that I
I'll
can
do
probably
it. I'll do it.
I
And
can,
you know,
could
Johnny,
part with also.
I hate to tell you this, but I got to look after my own interests first.
I understand. I
And then
understand.
after I take care of that, but you will be the next to call
all right,
person.
all
Okay,
right.
so
That sounds
but,
great.
But anyway, when you notice leaves start falling, and you get the rake out and you start raking leaves, you're gonna say, "Man, I need to prune some of these trees back to keep from having so many leaves." Well, it's not the time of year to do it. You need to hold off of pruning for the biggest majority of trees until late February, early March. And the reason of that is if you have some younger trees, if you go in and you prune now, they may suffer some cold weather damage. And I'm
Well-
sure we're going to have cold weather within a few months or so.
Well, probably within the month, I would think. You know, usually our normal average frost date is going to be October 15th, October 20th. You know, depending on where you are and what kind of systems we have, weather systems we have coming through. But you definitely don't want to prune now because anytime you prune when a plant is in actively growing, which plants still are, they're going to flush with new growth, and that new growth will not have time to harden off between now and a frost. So you definitely do not want to do any trimming now because even that trimming is going to flush new growth. And what's going to happen, you get about a half-inch growth, and that first frost will burn it, and then you're having to cut that off because you have the burn tips on it. So hold off on the pruning. And roses is one that a lot of people ask about cutting them back. Usually, you know, you want them to go dormant at this point, which dormant by the middle of November, they should be dormant. And you could cut them back maybe halfway or so, and then wait and do that next pruning the end of February, 1st of March for the roses. I like to prune them down a little bit and then cut them back a little harder the late winter, early spring. They don't look the best in the world during the wintertime, but you leave enough there in order, if they get any winter damage, you can prune that off in the spring. So, but definitely don't want to do any pruning right now. Even the lightest of pruning can cause that new growth to flush out, and you just don't have time for them to flush and then harden off before we get a frost, because it's gonna, you know, it doesn't feel like this week they're saying 80s, 86, 87, I think, by the end of the week, and you know, so it still feels summerish out there, but the nighttime temperatures are beginning to drop. I think we had 58 night before last, 59 last night, so it's beginning to cool off at night, which I'm all in favor of cooler weather myself, and this wasn't a severe hot summer. We didn't. Have a real
I
hot
didn't think
summer.
it was either,
No,
Johnny.
no.
We had some hot days, but it wasn't as bad as some, as I recall.
Yeah.
Something else. Speaking of cool nights, just, you know, here it is where a lot of the local apples have already came in, but you know, up towards the mountains, you know, it is prime apple season. And one thing that is required for apple trees and fruit trees they need a certain amount of chilling hours, for them to survive and flourish and grow well. Now, throughout different parts of the world, it's different varieties of apples. And just because it's a variety of apple that may grow in Washington State, that variety may not do so well here. But if you're wanting to plant some apple trees or any other fruit trees, you can contact your local cooperative extension service office, and they can tell you which varieties of fruit trees, grow best and survive best here in the Piedmont. But with that being said, one thing that we will, or I will, and Johnny may reiterate it in his thoughts, in the perfect world, you buy the fruit trees, you plant it, you go back and harvest the fruit. But it's not a perfect world, and it doesn't happen that way. It's a lot of work and a lot of upkeep on your fruit trees, and we have a few at home, and honestly, I don't look after them the way that I should, but it's a lot of work to keep up, an orchard, isn't it, John?
It is. You really do have to have a spray program, and there's spray programs that that we can give to you, and it's early in the spring. It's really earlier. Once you start seeing the problems in the summertime, it's almost too late to spray to help protect them from a lot of the problems that they can get. So apples and peaches really need to have a spray program for them. There's so many different insects and diseases that can get them. And you mentioned the chilling hours, Rob. You're right. You want to pick varieties, especially with peaches, that have a long chilling hours. You don't want to have a peach that only needs 400 hours chilling hours, because they'll start blooming in February, and we're going to get a cold spell late, and you're going to get zapped. I think I'm going from memory here, which is a terrible thing, but I think 750 chilling hours is what you want your peaches to have, the varieties of peaches. And but just give me a call, email me. I'll be glad to give you a list of different varieties that will do better. I was talking to a gentleman the end of last week, and he was talking. They raise peaches in West Virginia, which I never even thought about raising peaches in West Virginia. And
in By God, West Virginia.
Close to it. I don't know that you ever get to that place. Everybody it's right down the road.
That's right.
But anyway, that's unusual that we wouldn't think about peaches being that far north. But if as long as it doesn't get a cold snap, after they start blooming, that's okay. What gets ours. Yeah. That's usually what gets ours. And even in right across the border in Virginia, they raise peaches. There's lots of peaches. In fact, they probably do better there than they do here, because they don't get that late freeze after they started blooming. If they're not blooming, the freeze doesn't bother them. So just put the right varieties. And like you said, the apples, I planted a Honeycrisp apple. Well, my wife and myself planted one, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and because I like Honeycrisp.
They are delicious apples.
That's a good apple, and it's struggling. I'll be honest, it's struggling. It first year we had it, fire blight hit it pretty bad. It's still alive. It's still growing, but the Jonathan right beside of it that was planted, it's got a couple of years head start on it, I'll admit, but it seems to be handling our conditions better. So it just right there beside each other, I can see
the difference
in the varieties, that one would do better here than another one. And of course, the Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, they do well. But,
my first memory of a Honeycrisp apple, I don't know, it's probably, how time is, it flies, maybe 6 or 8, maybe 10 years ago. Mr. Bratcher, the owner of the station, was over in Durham and went by a place, and he brought back in some of those Honeycrisp apples, and they were just huge apples. And I think they were like maybe $2.75 a pound. and he gave me one of those apples, and they are really good, and they are more plentiful at local grocery stores now than they used to be. But if you ever have the opportunity and you haven't, try that Honeycrisp apple. I think you'll become a fan.
Yeah.
It's a good firm apple.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get a word on for Sandling Golf Cars. They're open weekdays 8 to 5, Saturdays 9 to 1. Whether you're wanting a utility trailer, an equipment trailer, a golf cart, Trojan batteries, all the list goes on. Also, golf cars available at Sandling Golf Cars. Sandling Golf Cars and Trailers open where you can shop in person weekdays 8 to 5, Saturdays 9 to 1. Visit the website 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, www.sandlinggolfcars.com. Located 613 Lewis Street in Oxford. Call 919-693-4626. Toll free 1-800-221-9267. Find a full line of golf cars, Yamaha, Club Car, and E-Z-GO. Basic to fully customized units, gasoline, battery-powered carts, parts, service, and repairs. If you're looking for a flatbed for that truck, maybe you're wanting a Wilmington grill, a utility trailer, an equipment trailer, an enclosed trailer, Sandling Golf Car, 613 Lewis Street in Oxford. Open 8 to 5 weekdays, Saturdays 9 to 1. 919-693-4626. Toll free 1-800-221-9267. All right, here we are. We appreciate the support of Sandling Golf Cars. In a little bit, we'll tell you about T.G. Brooks Company, the Halifax County Fair, Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, and the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association. Their 12th annual Harvest Show starts up today, and it runs through Sunday in Butner.
That's
Johnny?
a nice show. They do a good job of that. It's a nice area that they have it. It's really spread out in there. They really do have a lot of nice tractors and a lot of knowledge walking around there.
They really do.
Yeah.
And be sure to enjoy some homemade ice cream in there. And they'll have a play area for the children. So those guys, believe it or not, they have started planning next year's show already.
Yeah.
So it's, setting up, getting ready for the show. It's a tremendous amount of work for them. And then after the show, they have to put everything away. But they are constantly working hard to make the show bigger and better each and every year. And
They do a good job.
they certainly do. But Johnny, what's some other things we need to be talking about this time of the year?
Well, as far as plants, annual plants, we've got pansies. And if you don't like pansies, you can always plant pansies. And then there's pansies that you can.
Right.
There are some other plants out there, but pansies we think of this time of year. And I realize with the temperatures that we've had and the rain that we've had, some of the annuals, our summer annuals that we've had in, are not. They don't look as good now as they did earlier because of all the rain. Some of them still look very nice, and it's hard to take those nice annuals out. I tell everybody impatiens look the prettiest when you need to take them out. When you need to, because now you do need to go ahead and get your summer annuals out and plant your pansies. You want to get your pansies planted first part of October to give them a chance to get hardened up, toughened up for the winter time. You don't want to put them in November when we're already beginning to get cold, because especially if they're raised in the greenhouse, or even if they're not, even if they're raised outside, they just need to be in the ground, get a little bit of an establishment before they we get that cold weather on them. They do better and handle the winter better. So I know it's tough to pull those summer annuals out if they still look pretty, but it's the time to go ahead and do that. And of course, the perfect companion to pansies is the mums, the fall mums. Always beautiful. Rob, I was actually up at the Biltmore Estate last weekend, And they had an area there with mums, and I bet they had 10,000 mums. It was
Wow.
a huge amount. They were not blooming yet. They were still in the bud stage, but they were beautiful, just the way they had them set up. And they had some grasses in the middle of them, coming up out of the middle. And fall grasses is something that I really like. And I say fall grasses, the ornamental grasses. They usually bloom late summer, early fall, on into the fall with the ornamental grasses. And a lot of times people think ornamental grass, they think pampas grass. You know, it's the first grass that everybody thinks of. But there are so many different grasses. In fact, we just covered grasses in the Master Gardener class that's going on now. That about middle way through, we talked about some grasses, and you know, there are just so many different ones that. You know, they don't have to be 8-10 feet tall. You know, they have some that are in the 3-foot range. The muley grass, the pink muley grass that you see blooming quite a bit around, and in the mountains saw quite a few of the muley grass. They only get about 3 or 4 feet tall. They look good in mass. They probably look better in mass than a standalone. But you know, the grasses are real pretty. A lot of the grasses, although planting shrubs, planting woody ornamentals, most of the time it's good in the fall, is a good time to plant them. A lot of the grasses do better if you plant them in the spring and give them that summer to sort of get established. And then I'm not saying not to plant them in the fall, but some of them do better, just depending on the variety. If you plant them in the spring, just gives them a little more time to get adapted and used to the area that they're in before we go into the winter time. So just keep that in mind. But the grasses this time of year are beautiful. They really do look good. But I mentioned the woody ornamentals, the trees. You know, this is a good time to plant any of your shrubs that you've been thinking about planting. They're fixing to go dormant, so they won't need the care that if you planted them in the spring that they would need. When they're coming out of dormancy, they're going to require more water. Going into the fall, their water requirements go down quite a bit, and they get established through the winter time. And next spring, the root system's more established, and they can go through. So, you know, just know what you're planting. A lot of the plants, if it's a less hardy plant, you know, spring might be a better time, but for the most part, fall is your better time to plant. Most of all your woody ornamentals, but definitely get your pansies in now. Start looking for your mums. In order to get mums, some of the listeners may not know I used to be a part of a nursery over in Granville County, and that it's hard to get a mum that starts blooming the middle of September to last till Thanksgiving. That's a long stretch for a mum to bloom. So you might have to, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to go maybe a couple of different times to replace those mums, to go from middle of September all the way through Thanksgiving. It's just they've got some now that bloom for a long time, but they just won't quite go that long. But they're not usually real expensive. You can usually switch them out and get all the way through Thanksgiving, because they have the early blooming ones and they have the season extenders that they call, and they will bloom on into the fall quite a bit. Main thing though is they will freeze. So if we get a frost, if they're calling for a frost, you want to throw a sheet or something over them. The pansies, don't worry about it. The pansies are fine. They'll handle the frost. But the mums, those blooms will burn if we get a frost on them. So the later into the season that we go with the mums in bloom, you want to throw a sheet, something cloth, burlap, just something on them. If they're small enough that you can just move them under they'll handle the temperatures. It's just the frost itself on those blooms will not, they just won't tolerate that. The blooms will not tolerate the frost. So just be aware of that. Also, another thing with the blooms is the rain. If we get a real heavy rain and the blooms are wide open, they just, they're at peak bloom. if you can move them under a cover or something, that will extend your bloom time, keeping that heavy rain off of the bloom. So just some tips to keep your mums going a little longer. You do want to make sure that you keep water on them when they're blooming too, because that will shorten the bloom time when you let them dry out. You just don't want to let those mums dry out too much while they're in bloom. You want to, in fact, the 4-H agent was asking me how much do you need to water mums, and it's my pat answer for watering anything is watering it enough. But not too much, because you don't want to. You can ruin them by doing it too much. So that's always my answer for people that ask me how much to water something. It's the hardest thing to judge is watering a plant, but you don't want to let them dry out too much, because if they stress from water when they're in full bloom, and again I'm talking about the mums, that can shorten their bloom time. So. The mums and the pansies, and there's some other companion plants for the fall that will go into a good part of the winter. If we get a winter like we had last year, a lot of those companion plants, like the Swiss chard, the Bright Lights Swiss chard, and some of the other flowering cabbage. Flowering cabbage is a good companion plant, and will tolerate cold weather. The frost doesn't usually bother them, but if it gets real cold, then that can hurt them. So. Just some things to start looking for in the landscape, and this weather's going to cool off and finally get us into the fall spirit pretty soon. But they definitely, I'm sure most all the garden centers now are stocked up on the mums and pansies.
I have seen some beautiful mums and pansies around. I sure have. Let's get a word on for T.G. Brooks Company, a fine supporting sponsor. Now. If you're wanting some pansies, head on out to T.G. Brooks Company. Plumbing supplies, hand-cut ribeyes. It doesn't get much better than a hand-cut ribeye steak from T.G. Brooks Company.
Little. Fall 2018 is starting to creep in, and it's time now to get last-minute fall flowers in the ground. Also, time for collards, cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, and all other fall vegetables. T.G. Brooks Store has them. This is the best time of year right now to get your yard off to the best start. Remember to kill those weeds in the lawn and get ready for fall seeding. T.G. Brooks Company has the lawn chemicals to do the job. This is the best time of year to enrich and repair the lawn. T.G. Brooks Company has the new Top Choice Turf Grass Seed for greener and plusher lawns. Also available are rental lawn aerators and pull and walk behind pluggers and spreaders, bag and bulk mulches, and bulk planting soil. They have your fertilizers and lime too. They still have plenty of lawn sprinklers, water hose, and water hose fittings if you need hose repair. If you need yard tools, they're in abundance, plus wheelbarrows. Pick up a couple of nice rakes while you're there, fresh pine needles. And if you're the homeowner or if you are the professional landscaper, both get the same kind of service, and they are set up to handle commercial accounts. Taylor wood stove parts are available, so get your stove serviced up for cold weather. Remember, they have dog kennels, shavings, and of course, Bartlett animal feeds and Pride dog food. Your family will be smiling when you finish the day with a delicious hand-cut ribeye steak you bought at T.G. Brooks Company, and it's still warm enough for a bowl of homemade ice cream made from one of their ice cream freezers they have available. They've been around since 1936, and people have trusted T.G. Brooks Company for sound advice when it comes to lawn, garden, and home. They take pride in serving the homeowner, farmer, and those in construction. 411 Helena Maria Road, next door to Community Pharmacy in Timberlake.
All right, here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. This is a recorded edition. We appreciate the support of T.G. Brooks Company. We just heard a little while ago from Sandling Golf Cars. Coming up in a little bit, we'll give you some information about the Halifax County Fair that's going on tonight and tomorrow. Midway rides start at 5 this afternoon, at 12 noon tomorrow. And the Halifax County Fairgrounds is behind South Boston Speedway, Highway 360 East over in South Boston, Virginia. And we'll also tell you some information about the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association that starts today and runs through Sunday. And we'll share some info with you from Owl Pride Foods. Johnny, you were just talking about mums. Mums, in a sense, get treated as an annual, but they're actually a perennial, correct?
Most varieties are. They've done a lot with the varieties of mums over the last 20, 30 years. I think most of the mums were always considered perennials. And I would always recommend for people to plant them if they want them to come back next year, plant them in the ground and see what they do. Some varieties are hardier than others, but most people treat them as annuals. Most people treat them, they'll put them in a pot, or they'll put them in the ground, and maybe in a pot in the ground. They don't even take them out of the pot, and then just remove them after they've done their blooming. They've gone through their blooming process, but they, for the most part, they do come back. They will. They have the no pinch mums now, and the no pinch mums are the mums that you don't have to worry about pinching. Used to, especially in the nursery business, we pinch them 3 times. We pinch them maybe 2 weeks after we planted them. We would take the apical dominants out. We just pinch the tops out. And then a few weeks later, we'd pinch them again. That time takes a little longer because you have more breaks. And then before we'd actually take them out of the greenhouse and put them on the mum pad, is what we called it, put them out in the outside, we would pinch them that 3rd time. And that 3rd time, it took quite a while to pinch them all. So you did 3 different pinchings of them, and that really made them branch out and make them full and have a lot of blooms on them. Now they have the no pinch mums, and you don't do anything but fertilize them. And then mums are heavy feeders. They like their fertilizer, so fertilizing them as they're growing is something that you will need to do to supplement their fertilizer. Now, once they start blooming, and at the bud stage that you normally buy them in, not necessary to fertilize them anymore after that. You don't want to. If you push them too hard after that, you can push them through their bloom stage a little bit quicker. So usually when people buy them this time of year, you really don't need to fertilize them anymore. Just keep the water on them. But next year when they start coming back, you do need to keep the fertilizer on them. And they, they'll handle. We used to fertilize 3 times a week on the mums when we grew them out in the field in the 8-inch pan. We would every other day we would fertilize them. We'd water them in between to sort of flush some of the salts out. But and some people probably put them on constant feed. They just fertilize them all the time. So they are heavy feeders. So when they do come back, make sure you do push them along with the fertilizer. But once they start blooming, you cease the fertilizing and just water them after that. But yeah, they normally do come back. They're not probably one of the toughest perennials, but there are some that still. There's the Montauk daisy that sort of a daisy looking. It's not a mum, but it blooms about the same time the mums do. That's a tougher perennial, and there are perennials that are tougher than your regular mums. And a lot of those perennials are what they use for companion plants. The heuchera. Heuchera is a nice perennial. Coral bell is the common name for the heuchera. That's a nice companion plant. Heucheras usually like shade. They're usually more of a shade plant, but this time of year they'll handle a little bit more sun. And if you're putting them in a mixed container, you can add that to them. The vinca vine, the periwinkle vine is a nice come over the pot type plant that you can use for companion plant this time of year for mixed containers, because the vinca vine is a perennial. It's a ground cover actually. It looks very good mixed in with the mums, pansies. You do a mixed container and you can add some different things to it that's going to go through the wintertime. And then once the mum is gone, you can buy some pansies and replace the mum, and they will go through the wintertime and do real well. So, it's the mums aren't probably the toughest perennial there is now with the different varieties they have out, but hey, I'd always give them a try. I actually had some one time and just I never got them planted. It was one of those things. I'm going to plant these. I'm going to plant these. I'm going to plant these. I had them sort of underneath the edge of my deck, so they were protected a little bit, and I think maybe threw some pine straw around them. And I won't say I forgot about them, but I didn't do a whole lot with them during the wintertime. The next spring they came back out and were beautiful. And once they did that, I had to plant them after they come back out like that.
That's the thing, I guess, with the mums. When you purchase them, enjoy the beauty, and if you plant them, and if you're lucky enough, you can enjoy the beauty of them several times throughout the year. We need to get a word on for the Halifax County Fair. And you know, Johnny, the Halifax County Fair, they are big on agriculture. And, you know, used to be years ago, that's what the fairs were built on. The agricultural part of it was the staple. And if you visit the Halifax County Fair, be sure to go in the exhibit halls and see a lot of the different displays that people have worked hard. Go into the cattle barn to see, you know, the livestock. Talk to these people there that are displaying these different exhibits.
One at the Halifax County Fair, running tonight through Saturday, October the 6th. The Halifax County Fairgrounds located behind South Boston Speedway at 1188 James D. Haygood Highway. That's US 360 in South Boston, Virginia. You'll enjoy nightly entertainment, enjoy your favorite fair foods at the Halifax County Fair. For a list of events and the schedule, log on to halifaxcountyfair.com. Come one, come all. It's the Halifax County Fair in South Boston, Virginia. The gates open weekdays at 4 p.m., Saturday at 10 a.m. Midway rides with coal rides start at 5 p.m. weekdays and 12 noon Saturday. It's the Halifax County Fair in South Boston, Virginia, back behind the South Boston Speedway at the Halifax County Fairgrounds.
During the break, Johnny and myself were just talking a little bit about Hurricane Florence, and Johnny, you were just telling me that Paul Westfall, the director of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service offices for Person and Granville counties, just returned back from a trip going down lending assistance, and you were saying that a lot of the pictures that he showed you were pretty much unbelievable.
Yeah, just amazing. The water, the amount of water and how high the water was. He was showing me a field of blueberries, and I can't remember now if it was Bladen County or New Hanover County, but they were some blueberries in that area, the southeastern part that were flooded, and the blueberries were probably 5 or 6 feet tall, and there was maybe a foot. You could see the water line. Now the water had receded in these fields, but you could see where the water line was on those plants, and it was probably 5 feet, you know, maybe a foot, no more than a foot out of the water where you saw that water line. And you know, they were under that water probably for 4 or 5 days. Hopefully they'll come back out. You know, I think when they had this happen before, they said a lot of the established plants did, but if they were smaller and they were totally submerged, then a lot of those plants will not. And that's, you know, that's time that they've had, you know, had those plants in the ground and growing them, and now they'll lose that time. So it's, you know, it's sort of getting off the news. We don't hear about it, you know, quite as much as we did when it was going. But those people down there are still struggling, and just, you know, kudos to the extension, all the emergency workers that are down there. But there's still quite a bit of extension agents that are in those counties, and there's other agents throughout the state that are going. In fact, Paul was working with a group from Texas, an extension, a group from Texas that came out to help. They was putting up livestock areas where people could come to get food and over-the-counter medical supplies for their livestock, because we don't think about the food. You know, a lot of places were flooded. Their food their grain and everything was flooded. So there's been farmers that have donated hay that have gone into that area, and NCDA, Extension sort of has helped line it up. I know Kim Woods was doing some coordination of getting some hay down into that area, and different farmers taking them down there. So, a lot of things we don't think about. We think about the water, and not having electricity, and the roads being washed out. But there's lots of livestock down there that are affected, and a lot of good people that are going down into that area that are helping. So, just to remind people that it's, even though
People are still dealing with
people
it.
are still dealing with it. They are, and how impressive that those people that are going into that area and taking time and taking some of their product into the area to help meet the needs of not only the human needs, but also the livestock needs, which is a human need, because it's a livelihood. It's their
That's
livelihood,
right.
and a lot
It
of
sure
the
is.
the soybeans, a lot of the crops. I mentioned blueberries, but he also Paul was also showing pictures of soybeans, and they were totally covered. Because soybeans aren't that tall, so they were totally covered.
And as Kim Woods had made mention on the last program of last week, anytime a field is flooded like that, those vegetables and produce cannot be used for
Exactly.
human consumption.
If the water comes off the property, if it comes from another source other than on that property, they can't harvest it.
Yeah. All right, let's get a word on for the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association. Again, that show kicks off today and runs through Sunday. It's in Butner.
The Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association announces the 12th annual Harvest Show to be held Friday, October the 5th, noon to 5, Saturday, October the 6th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, October 7th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. The show location will be the corner of 12th and G Streets in Butner, North Carolina, just off of Central Avenue. Log on to the website lgaha.com for updates. You'll enjoy 3 big days of the 12th annual Harvest Show that the proceeds will benefit the scholarship program sponsored by the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association. Bluegrass and country music on Saturday. See the antique tractors, engines, and farm equipment on display. Mama's Kitchen old-time cooking. Be sure to visit the antique homestead display, the farm shop. See the goat milking demonstration. They'll have free games and rides for the children. It's a daily admission of $5. For more information, you can contact Al Govan at 919-528-1652. Again, this will be October 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Butner. It's the 12th annual Harvest Show. Call 919-528-1652 for more information.
All right, here we are. We've got just a couple of minutes left on this pre-recorded edition of the Gardeners Corner program. Johnny, you said you've got a field day coming up.
We've got a field day. Myself and Paul McKenzie, the Vance Warren County agriculture agent, along with North Carolina Forestry Service in Granville County, Rob Montague. He's helping us with this also. But it's going to be, the field day is actually going to start in Vance County over in Henderson, at the Vance County Regional Farmers Market over in Henderson is where it'll start. It's November 2nd, so it's about a month away, a little less than a month away now, but it's going to start about 8 for registration, and the field day is free, but we do ask that you call and register, or you can go online if you go to either Vance County Cooperative Extension's website or Granville or Persons Extension's website, Cooperative Extension website. You can find a link that you can actually register online, or you can call the office and we'll get you registered. But it is free to register, but we're just trying to get a head count. It's November 2nd. Starts at the actual program is going to start at 8:30, but we'll have some light breakfast there starting at 8. And we'll do the topic is going to be leaving a forestry legacy, or how do you leave your forestry legacy, as far as leaving it to the next generation. If you've started a forestry, you've got a forest started, you've planted trees, and you need to know how to move from one estate to the next,
Right.
as far as your forestry goes. And also, we're going to have some chainsaw safety tips, and we actually have some chainsaw safety demonstration. We'll go to a forestry site. The forestry site will probably be in Granville County, so we'll leave Vance County, go to Granville County, and then go to the North Carolina Forestry Service in Granville County for the demonstration on chainsaw safety. So it'll all wrap up about 12:30, 1 o'clock, but it starts at 8:30, and right now the schedule is 12:45 for it to end. But depending on questions and
Yeah.
how things, but at least about 1.
So it's like a fun day.
Yeah, again, November
of the
2nd. It's on a
information.
Friday. So.
Well, that's going to wrap it up. We appreciate Johnny Coley of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, where he serves as a horticultural agent for Person and Granville counties. Thanks to the Lloyd Granville Agricultural Heritage Association, their 12th annual harvest show going on today through Sunday. We also appreciate the support of T.G. Brooks Company, Owl Pride Foods, makers of Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Bread and Dip. Thanks also goes out to Sandling Golf Cars, and we can't forget about T.G. Brooks and the Halifax County Fair. God bless, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Gardeners Corner program, and we look forward to seeing you back next week.